Tyrone Bowman live. Welcome to the program tonight, everybody. Well, let's get right down to the topic of conversation. President Trump claims without evidence that a former President Joe Biden's pardoning of the January 6th committee's members is illegal. I'll talk about that in a moment, but let me talk about Senator Chuck Schumer for a moment. Schumer is a senator. Why would he just willingly go along with any and everything that the Republicans want? Who is your allegiance to? I thought it was to the constituency that put you in power and to the Constitution of the United States. And it seems like for political expediency that he's willing to go along with any and everything. I'll address that in a different video. But tonight, according to NPR or National Public Radio, the headline reads, Trump tries to void Biden's pardons, blaming AutoPen. Many presidents have used it. President Trump is claiming without evidence that some of former President Joe Biden's actions are invalid because he allegedly used a machine to automate signatures on documents, which is a long-standing practice in the White House. In a late-night Truth Social post, Trump said his predecessor's preemptive pardons of members of the House committee investigating the January 6th insurrection are, quote, hereby declared void, vacant, and of no further force or of effect, close quote, because of the fact that they were done by AutoPen. Doesn't corporate America use AutoPen to send out those crappy letters that they send out trying to entice people to get credit that they don't need, try to buy items that they don't need? Isn't that what corporate America does? Greedy corporate America, the money-grabbing, greedy corporate CEOs who don't care about people. They only care about profits and profit margins, about appeasing their shareholders. Isn't that what they do every day? Isn't that what these racist, bigoted, evangelical, pontificating preachers do when they're sending out their fundraising appeals? AutoPen. They pay outside corporations to write the letters. Those preachers don't even write the letters themselves. AutoPen is used. The notion that Biden relied on the AutoPen to sign important documents was heavily perpetuated by the Oversight Project, an arm of the Heritage Foundation that played a key role in promoting false claims about non-citizen voting last year. Trump's rhetoric fans the flames of conspiracies about Biden not really being in charge during his presidency. While concerns about Biden's fitness for office forced him to call his re-election campaign, the right has taken that to an extreme. In other words, Joe Biden did not sign them, but more importantly, he did not know anything about them. Trump wrote of the pardons, however, there is no evidence that is the case. Ronald Reagan, when he was in office, wasn't even aware that he was the president because he suffered from dementia. He had Alzheimer's. He didn't even know who he was. Yes, I said it, because it's a stipulated fact. He was old, he was tired, he was senile, he had Alzheimer's. He didn't know he was the president of the United States. That's why half of the time he didn't even see Reagan, because he didn't know what he was doing. It is not clear whether Biden actually used an AutoPen to sign documents in question. And even if he did, legal experts say it's not clear the pardons would be rescinded for that or any other reason. Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution, which grants presidents broad clemency powers, says the pardon only needs to be accepted by its subject to take effect, and does not mention anything about reversing them after the fact. Jay Wexler, a professor of constitutional law at Boston University School of Law, told NPR he thinks the AutoPen issue is a non-starter and a distraction. Importantly, he says there is nothing in the Constitution that requires pardons be in writing at all. The argument that the pardon fails because it was signed by an auto pen fails at the get go, because there's no requirement that the pardon ever be signed, he explained. Well, if that's the case, then the next president who comes into office can dispute the pardoning of the January 6th rioters. They can they can use the plausibility factor, the same argument, and they can try to rescind them as well. Trump acknowledged the potential gray area and repeated his claim about Biden's cognition while speaking to reporters on Air Force One. Well, Trump is getting up in age himself, so let's see how that plays out. It's not my decision. That would be up to a court, he said. But I would say that they're null and void because I'm sure Biden didn't have any idea it was taking place. Concerns about Biden's age and fitness for office are not new, even from Trump, who became the oldest president inaugurated when he began his second term at 78. But claims that auto pen signatures could be nullifying are more unusual, especially since multiple presidents have used the devices over the years. You don't hear Fox News talking about Trump's age. You don't hear any of those friendly networks talking about his cognitive abilities, his mental acuity. You know why? Because they want to appease him. They want to make him happy. As long as he's saying and doing things to try to hurt black people, they're all for it. They're on his side. And America is not a nation of what people think it is. It doesn't come up regularly, meaning the auto pens, Webster says. And I think that's because people understand that it's really not a real issue. So, what is an auto pen? An auto pen is a generic name for a machine that duplicates signatures using real ink, making it easy for public figures to autograph everything from correspondence to merchandise in bulk. They are printer-sized machines with an arm that can hold a standard pen or pencil and use it to replicate the program's signature on a piece of paper below. Well, look at all the robots that are the robotic nation, the rising of the robotic nation in stores everywhere. How do you know that that's real food that the robots are cooking? You don't know. How do you know that that's real food that you're even getting? The AutoPen Company, a Maryland based firm that makes the devices, says they have been used by universities, government agencies, and other institutions for more than 60 years. The AutoPen has long been a tool for the world's most influential leaders, allowing them to more effectively apply their time and attention to important issues without compromising the impact of personalized correspondence it writes. As I was saying, corporations use auto pens every single day. I get letters and stuff in the mail all the time, and I know darn well that the person who they say sent the letter didn't send the letter. So where did auto pens come from? A precursor to the auto pen is a 19th century polygraph, which allowed one writer to move two pens simultaneously. It was patented in the US in 1803, produced the following year, and used enthusiastically by Thomas Jefferson during and after his presidency. The use of the polygraph has spoiled me for the old copying press, the copies of which are hardly ever legible. Jefferson wrote in 1809, I could not now therefore live without the polygraph. As the auto pen evolved, a man named Robert D. Sazo Jr. learned about an early design while working at a naval torpedo factory in Virginia during World War II. He created the technology and began commercially producing it shortly afterward. DeSazo's first order was from the Secretary of the Navy, and the devices quickly became commonplace in the government. DeSazo, whose company Automated Signature Technology was headquartered in Virginia, told the Washingtonian. In 1983, an estimated 500 auto pens were being used in the nation's capital, from Congress to the cabinet. So it's okay if the Republicans use an auto pen, but Democrats can't. So basically, that's what it's saying. And this is nothing more than a distraction from the real issues, like the economy, the price of gas, the price of eggs, the price of food, inflation, depression, recession, homelessness. People are suffering great suffrage during this time. Individuals are dealing with all kind of pain and circumstances, evictions. People being fired unceremoniously from their jobs 24 hours a day. What about the issues that make a difference to everyday people? All the crap that's going on in Washington, I think they're probably on recess by now. So you know they're not concerned about nobody's problems. But everyday people are catching it. I see it all the time everywhere I go. Mothers can't put food on the table to take care of their children. Elderly seniors can't get the medicine that they need. Those who are in hospice and in nursing homes, where they're understaffed all the time. People working 2 and 3 and 4 shifts at a time. Grocery lines are full to the rim. Food pantries are running out of food. Prices are soaring on every level. And we're supposed to care about an auto pen. Everyday people hurting, dealing with everyday problems. The midterm elections are coming up, and it won't be long before it's time to vote. It's going to be a big change coming to Washington, whether they want it to or not. So, which presidents have used AutoPen? Well, a number of presidents since Jefferson have relied on AutoPens, some more publicly than others. Harry Truman was rumored to have used one, as was Gerald Ford, according to the Chappell Manuscript Foundation. Lyndon Johnson is credited with publicizing the practice by allowing photos of the device to be taken during his time in office. That story made the front cover of the National Enquirer. In 1968, under the headline, quote, "One of the best kept secrets in Washington, the robot that sits in for the president," close quote. The presidents who used auto pens in the second half of the 20th century, a list that is reported to include John F. Kennedy, Jimmy Carter, and Richard Nixon, did so to sign correspondence and other documents. Barack Obama became the first known president to sign legislation with an auto pen in 2011, when he signed a Patriot Act extension while he was in France, prompting Republican critics to wonder whether that move was constitutionally sound. Yeah, whatever. It turned out that the administration of George W. Bush had already considered and answered that question. Bush's Office of Legal Counsel published a 29-page document in 2005, concluding that the president, quote, "need not personally perform the physical act of affixing his signature to a bill he approves and decides to sign in order for the bill to become a law," close quote. Rather, the president may sign a bill by directing a subordinate to affix the president's signature to such a bill. For example, by autopen, it reads. Bush ultimately decided against using the autopen himself, flying through the night to get back to the White House in time to sign emergency legislation in 2005. But his defense secretary, Donald Rumsfeld, was criticized for using one to sign hundreds of condolence letters to families of troops killed in the Iraq War. Antics, semantics. Keep your eyes on the prize. Be concerned about the economy. Let's be concerned about what's happening, what's going on in this nation with everyday people. Never surrender. Never quit.